Well, hi everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Chaffee. Welcome to the Joe Chaffee Weather Show on this Friday night, the last day of the month of May 2019. And we have no severe weather up my way, though we have some severe weather not too far down to the south across Virginia and North Carolina, which we're going to take a look at in just a moment. These last 3 days have been quite rough. Having severe weather occurring right at the time of the live streams, but I got TV stuff I got to do, so it kept me from doing the usual longer live stream. However, just want to say, let you know a couple of things up front. As a result of the severe weather over the last couple of days, I was cutting short morning updates, and I thought they were easy enough to do, and I thought, well, why not? So we're starting a new thing. I started it officially this morning. We're going to call it Weather in 5. 5 minutes, 5 days. I'll do it in the morning. I'll probably not live stream it. I'll more than likely pre-record it and put it up right into YouTube. The morning is tough. Everybody's running around, you're heading to work, school, whatever. And no one has time to sit through something that long. So a long live stream that we usually have during the evening hours. So we'll cut these short ones, get you started on the day, give you a general idea of what's happening in the short range, and then we'll come back to the nighttime live stream as usual and address the long range. Also, for those of you who are new, or if you haven't gotten around to doing it, do go ahead and download my free weather app for Android or for the iPhone. It's on Google Play or on the App Store. Just search Meteorologist Joe Chaffee, or you can just find links everywhere. There's links to the app on Facebook. There's links to the app on my website. Or if you can't find it, just shoot me a message and I'll send the link along for you. Okay, I think that was pretty much it as far as announcements are concerned. So let's get started. There's weather going on across the mid-Atlantic states, and this is inside one of the few areas where we have severe weather risk today. So we're going to go get SPC's map up here. And there you have it. Pretty big area of a severe thunderstorm watch that's up for southern Virginia and North Carolina. And that's inside. It pretty much covers all of the slight risk and all of the enhanced risk, obviously. This is yesterday's weather front that moved through the Northeast, is now pushed down into the mid-Atlantic states. And you have two other areas of risk in Texas, back into southwest Texas, southeastern New Mexico, where we have slight risk. Not a whole lot of risk going on in the plains today for a change. There's a nice break the last couple of days for that area. We do have a marginal risk from South Dakota across into the lakes. Now that is with the first of two weather fronts that's setting up to our north, and those fronts are going to be dropping down into through the Great Lakes and through the Northeast this weekend, as we are in a bit of a different type of weather pattern overall, and this is giving us the nice change, at least in the plains. Certainly well deserve that particular change. But the Northeast, 3 days in a row, I've been mentioning the fact that, and it's, the thing is, the criteria is different today from what it was back in the day. So I can tell you that in my 40 years of doing this, I really don't remember ever seeing 3 days in a row of severe weather watches, 2 tornado watches, just the 2 tornado watches on back-to-back days for virtually identical areas in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, down into Delaware, parts of Maryland. I don't remember ever seeing back-to-back watches that were almost identical before. And to make it 3, because yesterday it wasn't a tornado but a severe thunderstorm watch that was issued, pretty unusual. But again, it might be an apples and oranges kind of thing. If the criteria was different back when you go back through the 80s and 70s and before, so it's quite possible that you would have had a situation like this happen with back-to-back-to-back days, and we just it didn't happen because the the watches, and SPC was either not there or in its infancy. So anyway, just want to make it sound a little less unprecedented than what some people are taking it to be. Here's the radar at the moment overlaid with the temperatures. The radar echoes, you can see some of them are quite strong and possibly severe in parts of eastern North Carolina. There was a nasty looking line of storms over the Outer Banks about an hour or so ago. That kind of weakened a little bit, but we are seeing some storms forming now a bit further to the south and near Belhaven, where it's 77 right now. We've got some strong storms along the coast. This ob that you see up here is Bogue Field Marine, the Marine Corps Auxiliary. Beaufort is at 81, and we've got near New River at 79. You can see the temperatures outside the zones where the thunderstorms are occurring are in the middle and upper 80s. So you certainly had ample daytime heating going on here, and there's a fairly big cell near northeast of Rocky Mountain on the radar at the moment. By the way, if you go to Mount Holly's website, so that would be nhc.noaa.gov/phi. On their homepage, they have this tool, the Weather Service Weather and Hazards Data Viewer, and it's a bit easier to load than the EDD and a few of the others, and it seems to be working pretty well. So I may just defer to this more than the other tools going forward. The temperatures back through Virginia also in the low 80s. There are some thunderstorms. Johnny Quest, you're probably seeing some strong storms your way. Charlottesville, 81 with a dew point of 63, and there are some cells all around Charlottesville and back over on the West Virginia side as well. There's not much happening around the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area, and there's nothing happening at all up in my neck of the woods, where we had such a nice day that if you didn't spend time outside today, shame on you after the last 3 days. Even on Long Island, which in the last 3 days have barely seen any sun and with dealing with low clouds and the onshore flow, the temperatures reached up into the middle and upper 70s. Now we are getting a sea breeze there along the coast, so they're back down into the low and mid 70s. Great weather also through southern New England and through upstate New York. There's a bit of an oddity on the satellite photograph. I'm going to pull up the U.S. loop, and I want to show you this. So take a look at the loop itself, and you'll notice that there's a smoky haze, what looks like a smoky haze, coming on the upper left from northwest Canada through the plains and lakes and into the northeast. That's actually smoke from forest fires that are going on in western Canada. And if you happen to be in an area today where skies are outside of the smoky haze are clear, might be a pretty, some really spectacular sunset views this evening when we get to sunset in a couple of hours. But that's all from the forest fires. Of course, the brighter white cloud tops, that's obvious, and we see the clouds in the mid-Atlantic states with the thunderstorms there. And there's also a little bit of thunderstorm activity and downpours in southeast Texas and into southwestern parts of Louisiana. Not too much happening out in the west. There's a little bit of cloud cover. Looks like a bit of an upper low still sitting down in Nevada or Southern California. But it's separated from the deep trough that we had in the west. We no longer have it there. And you'll notice the flow of clouds moving out of Canada. So that's telling you that the northern part of the jet stream is getting more active, and it will be the main player here through the weekend and into next week. So running back to SPC, let me fix this. Hang on, guys. Let's break. Whoops, that's me. And that's that. Okay, so let's look at SPC. Okay, good, it's working. SPC's mesoscale shots weren't working a little while ago. There's the large severe thunderstorm watch with the current still shot of the radar. We've got a lot of, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6 or 7 severe thunderstorm warnings in play at the moment. I don't see any tornado warnings, but that's how the cells are shaping up in the wide view. Looks like they just updated it there. And then you see those cells up by you, Johnny, up in Western Virginia, extending south. Looks like they run pretty close to I-81 all the way down. Wouldn't be fun to drive in that. And then we've got a few showers back through central West Virginia, a couple of showers and thunderstorms in southeast Ohio, and a few also in eastern Kentucky. So this really is pretty much the limit as far as activity is going in the east for this evening. It's a pretty quiet day overall, really. Now here are the risk areas for Saturday, and we have 2 cold fronts in play. This is going to trigger off an area of enhanced risk of thunderstorms from Kansas all the way up to Chicago and almost to Milwaukee and into northwestern Indiana. And you've got that kind of banana shape or pickle shape enhanced risk from southeast Kansas into west central Illinois, cutting right across the central part of the state of Missouri. Also a small slight risk again in southwest Texas, southeast New Mexico. And there you have the marginal risk that runs from that area all the way northeastward to Ohio, western Pennsylvania, and western New York. I'm not expecting much in the Northeast from this first weather front. I think there's going to be some stuff that's going to pop up tomorrow. Much of it is going to be inland late in the day into tomorrow night. I don't think it reaches the coastline. In fact, you'll notice SPC actually cuts the thunderstorm line off just east of New York City and in through the eastern half of Connecticut as you head up through coastal New England and on up into Maine. So I think we're really capped in terms of development. There's not a whole lot of moisture for this to work on. We're not dealing with a situation, for example, where dew points are going to be soaring up through the 60s and into the 70s to create some good thermodynamic conditions here for tomorrow. Now, Sunday afternoon and evening, SPC is not doing anything here in the Northeast, but I would just be a little cautious through upstate New York, particularly in northern and northeastern New York, into western New England, that we might wind up here with a fairly decent-looking squall line of thunderstorms when the Sunday front comes through. So don't be shocked if tomorrow you see a small area of marginal risk there, or maybe even they'll go to a slight risk. I don't know, but I'm just kind of thinking that maybe there's a chance here for Sunday that there could be at least some isolated severe thunderstorms with the cold front. And then we have a marginal risk up through the southern and central plains and on up through the eastern parts of Colorado and New Mexico and back through easternmost Wyoming for Saturday. The surface map tonight shows the old frontal boundary is now way to the south, and you've got a low in western North Carolina, a well-defined warm sector here with some rather juiced up dew points up into the upper 60s and low 70s in most places, but it's fairly limited. The front is at least breaking the heat wave. We're not seeing temperatures well up into the 90s to near 100, at least through 18Z. There are temperatures up into the low and a few middle 90s in South Georgia, but this whole pattern switch that we're seeing is going to end all of this, the heat in parts of the southeast for at least a few days anyway, and that is good news. Also, I know this area has been kind of lacking in rain, so I don't know how much rain you're going to wind up getting out of all of this. You're certainly not getting that much today. You have some coastal storms that have developed. Of course, you've got all these echoes back from North Carolina northwestward into Kentucky, but that really is about it. The Northeast is about as quiet as it gets. You got a few showers up in the northern lakes and a couple of thunderstorms in the mix there. And here's the area in southeast Texas, moving into southwestern Louisiana. A couple of cells starting to pop up in the slight risk area in southwest Texas and over into New Mexico. Now, I want to switch over to the paint box because I want to illustrate to you what's going on with the jet stream pattern at the moment. Now, this is from 3 days ago with the upper air, and a couple of things were already going on back on Tuesday that is leading to what's happening this weekend. And of course, you had this this upper low back in Colorado and the deep trough in the west, but at the same time, you have this complex vortex in central Canada setting up and strengthening, and that is creating a strengthening northwest flow out of Canada. Not as at least back through on Tuesday, of course, this was not having the impact of bringing that cool air down, but it did bring the boundary zone down far enough. You had the ridge here off the west coast of Florida, the upper ridge there, and of course you've got this very warm to hot flow that was coming up into the mid-Atlantic states, and then you had the boundary zone that was set up out of that plains upper low that extended just across Pennsylvania and New Jersey. And we talked about how all of this was buckling back and forth, but the change from this to what the upper air is going to look like on Sunday. So to capture this view in your mind, and now I'm going to switch over to Sunday's upper air, and you'll see how different it is. Of course, that upper low in the plains gone, and instead we have a nice ridge that's popped up into Montana. There's an upper low that drops down into Southern California. You can see evidence of that on the satellite we showed you when we showed you before, that rotation that we saw back in the southwest, and that's this upper low. But you have that northern part of the jet stream really dipping down into the southeast. So that pretty much brings down, at least breaks the extreme heat. Notice the ridge in the Gulf of Mexico has weakened considerably. It's just about gone. It's very flat. You have an upper high sitting over Mexico near the Bay of Campeche, and you have general troughing here in the eastern states. So you have a short wave way offshore. That's what's in the Carolinas now. As a low develops, it's going to take that out to the northeast. But our air is going to be coming down from Canada around this upper low that is sitting in eastern Canada. So our drivers are going to be cold fronts coming down from the north rather than these stalled frontal boundaries extending from a dynamic trough out in the plain. So it makes for a different sequence of events, and it also, I think, minimizes the activity to a large extent. So that's good news. And as far as the weekend is concerned, my general view is for my area anyway, for eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England, we're basically talking about a weekend that is going to be mostly dry, mostly nice. There's a shower risk Saturday night. There's a chance for showers or thunderstorms Sunday evening. And in between all that, it should be pretty good. So if you've got outdoor plans, I think you should certainly go ahead with them. So here's how we're playing this out with the next couple of days. So let's just back away. And here's your low that's forming near North Carolina. You've got a front there through the Central Lakes back into southern Minnesota that's swinging southeastward. And of course, this front actually extends back into southern Missouri and into northern Oklahoma. So this is your zone of severe weather for later Saturday night that extends from northeast Texas on northeastward toward the Gulf states. Toward the Great Lakes. And of course, this first front reaches the east tomorrow. Again, this is precip, so it's not showing radar echoes. We'll show you the NAM reflection. It'll give you a better idea of just how minimal this is. And then, and much of whatever happens here is during Saturday night anyway, and I think it's going to be mostly inland. Sunday, the second front. And now if you look, there's a low that forms over Lake Erie, Lake Ontario. There's a trailing cold front through the lower lakes, and you've got some fairly cool air coming down into Wisconsin over Lake Superior and into Minnesota and Michigan. And that cold front moves into the east Sunday evening with some showers and storms. And you can see that low that's up there in the St. Lawrence Valley, the trailing cold front that actually makes it off the southeast coast. So this is a fairly solid push of cooler air. The southern end of this obviously is not going to be all that cool, but at least it's going to bring the extreme temperatures down. It's also going to bring the dew points down a bit as well, which is welcome. And now you've got this nice high sitting over Chicago Monday afternoon. A breezy day on Monday, maybe in and out sun, probably some scattered showers in upstate New York, some instability showers, the cold upper trough swinging through. Might even be a thunderstorm in the mix with that, perhaps a lower top thunderstorm, not out of the question. And then again, that's for upstate. And then Tuesday, that high settles near the coast. We have a nice day. The gradient relaxes. And then we go into next week where we start to see the high going out, a west-southwest flow on Wednesday, so warmer and more humid air comes in. But we also have a front that's pushing down from the north here. That is going to move through, and guess what? It's going to stall. So I wonder whether maybe late next week we could find ourselves once again in the position of seeing a stalled frontal boundary cutting across somewhere through the mid-Atlantic or the northern mid-Atlantic states and causing some problems toward the second half of next week. But we shall see. Here's how it looks on the upper air jet stream pattern. And you see that eastern trough just basically taking over the ridging that's occurring from Texas on up into Montana. Certainly welcome for the folks that have been battering all that severe weather for the last couple of weeks in the Plain States. It gradually gets flattened out. I'm looking at this is the new GFS, which will take us out to later next Thursday, early Friday. And you'll notice that the eastern trough does pull out. The ridge starts to come back in the southeast. And actually you put the upper high probably somewhere off the northwest coast of Florida. And you're also starting to see a trough in the Pacific. The upper low that's sitting over the Aleutians, that at least creates that whole environment of the relaxation. But the models break this down and start to swing that energy into the west again. So this leads to the idea that there's going to be some kind of western trough later next week. And indeed, you do see some troughing there. It's not like what it was, though. That's the thing. That southwest energy, by the way, that spinning rotation that we talked about into the southwest, that kind of gets kicked out later next week. It gets kicked out to the east. You see it here moving into Kansas and Oklahoma. That might be that's going to be the mechanism, I think, that triggers off perhaps a round of severe weather in the plains later next week, and may create some issues here if we've got a stalled frontal boundary. The overall look in the longer range is on the warmish side, I would say, in general, across the U.S. We're continuing to see the upper air jet stream trying to go do what it does this time of year, in that it gets rid of the last vestiges of wintertime and gradually transitions over into a true summertime pattern. It doesn't do these things evenly. And you do see troughs appear again in the northern jet from time to time, and that might mean for cold fronts that will come through in the eastern part of the United States. But you're starting to see, the bigger, stronger upper highs develop. If this long range way out 2 weeks from now were to be correct, you've got a fairly large upper high beginning to show up in the Atlantic. You've got another one in the northwestern Gulf of Mexico. So you're starting to get into that late spring, early summer type look. I don't see an upper air, by the way. We talked about the fact tomorrow's the first day of hurricane season. With the ridge getting flattened out and retreating down into the Gulf of Mexico like this, it would suggest to me that pressures across the Gulf and down in the Caribbean are going to be a bit on the high side. That would not be favorable for tropical storm development. Not that it couldn't happen, but it would take a lot of work when you have a relatively stable upper air going on. I don't really see. Sometimes you'll see, when you get these upper highs when they're strung across inland of the Gulf of Mexico, across from southeast Texas, across Mississippi and Alabama. The pressures are higher further north, and then the pressures wind up being lower further south. That creates a bit more of a favorable environment for something to come out of the Northwest Caribbean. I'm just really not seeing it here for the first few days of June, at least. So that pretty much sums it up today. The severe weather kept us, like I said, the severe weather just kind of wiped me out. And here we are on Friday at the end of the week and looking at a weekend, which I'm definitely looking forward to. And if you had to deal with the severe weather this week, I'm sure you're looking forward to it as well. Here's the WPC's rainfall forecast map for the next 7 days. And you notice it gets juiced up again in the plains. I think that's more for later on next week when that southwest system comes out. You're seeing some precip in the in parts of the Northeast, and I think much of this, the bluish areas on the order of an inch to an inch and a half. I think that's probably more so for anything later next week, Wednesday and beyond, because after Sunday, the next cold front's not going to come through until Wednesday night. So I'm thinking this is also going to be more back end loaded. The southeast, unfortunately, rainfall amounts in many areas under a half an inch, and actually in most areas under a quarter of an inch. Florida also not a whole lot of rain, a few pockets here and there, but that's about it. The big rains are going to be in Oklahoma again, western Arkansas, southwestern Missouri, southeastern Kansas. And remember, these areas have already had in the last couple of weeks, some places there 15 inches or more of rainfall. So the last thing that they need is additional rain. You may have seen stories, farmers. I was watching CNBC, and they were talking about the fact that the planting, the spring planting, is something like 50% behind where it should be for this time of year. Plus, if you think back to those the early spring blizzards that occurred out in the plains, a lot of cattle lost in those, and then you had the snowmelt river flooding. This has not been a good stretch of weather. The heavy snows that occurred up in the plains this winter, followed by all this severe weather. This has been a very, very rough 6 months for the folks up in that part of the U.S. All right, I'll come to the board for just a little bit and say hi to everybody. It's a Friday night because we always have a small crowd on a Friday night. Erica Baker, you are going to have to keep your eyes open again next week when that upper low gets kicked out of the southwest, because it looks like you got some more rain coming. I know you've been messaging me about the rising rivers in your particular area, and I think you're going to have some more problems going forward. Chris Alley, Johnny Quest, James NASCAR, Amy Hogan, Robert Brown, Chuck Cardillo, Alfred Phillips, our buddy from Wainwright, Alaska, Okie AG. You feel summed up. I feel summed up, Okie AG. I bet you do. Len, checking in from Virginia Beach inside the severe thunderstorm watch. Yes, do be safe with that active radar that is going on in your neck of the woods. Timothy Veltman, keep an eye on Sunday up your way, Timothy. You might see some cells get revved up late in the day. Robert Brown, working down in New River. Hey, in MCAS in Jacksonville. I pulled up your ob from there. Very good. Just want to make sure I got it. William Uber, Charlie Baker, Jersey Jeff. Good to see you on board. And I think I got everybody I just want to say real quick, because Scott Briller, of course, is usually the first one. Robert Brown, forgot you. Hi, Bob. And Glenn Thompson. And I think that's it. I think I got everybody. I hope I got everybody. If I missed you, I am so sorry. Oh, there he is, Paul Roman. Okay, just want to say real quick, because Scott Briller is usually the first one on the live streams every day, the chairman, and he's taking care of his mom. She had to be hospitalized, but she seems to be on the mend. So just keep both of them in your thoughts and prayers over the next couple of days, and a speedy recovery to Scott's mom. Mirtha Gunter jumping on board. Nice to see you here. And you did pretty good there, Erica Baker, with your forecast. You sure did. Very good. I encourage that, by the way, for everybody, novice and not so novice. Use your life experience and what you know about your own area's climate, and have some fun with it. Figure out what you think is going to happen based on what you see with the weather maps that I show, and of course you have access to all of this stuff. The models are on tropicaltidbits.com. You've got the all the wonderful tools that are on the NOAA site to use. So take advantage of that, and give it a whirl. Sometimes it's not as easy as you might think. Okay, because it's not easy. It really isn't easy. Michael Azera, today, May 31st, 1985, historic severe weather outbreak over eastern Ohio, western Pennsylvania. 21 tornadoes, including an F4 and an F5 in Mercer County, Pennsylvania. The outbreaks that occur here in the Northeast, I guess if you want to compare them to the kind of outbreaks that they have in Tornado Alley, obviously they're not quite as ferocious, but these kind of outbreaks happen so rare here, so that when they do, they really, really stand out. And we did see on Tuesday and Wednesday, not so much yesterday, but on Tuesday and Wednesday, we did see quite a bit. I saw quite a few tornado warnings, and of course, right here in my own area in New Jersey, in northern New Jersey, in Stanhope, an EF1 tornado occurred last Tuesday night, and there was quite a bit of damage that was done to a number of buildings and other structures, aside from, of course, the trees down and everything else. Tornadoes up here don't happen too often, and when they do, as they are everywhere, they're problematic. But this is not an area of the country that is used to this sort of stuff, so it does tend to stand out more. I'm just looking at the tornado count. Yesterday it was 3. The day before, 48 tornadoes. Now, remember, we also had stuff going on back through the southern plains. So I don't know the exact distribution in terms of what the tornadoes were state by state. And this is on the 28th. So this was Tuesday, 48 tornadoes, and last Monday, 35 tornadoes. Those were all out in the plain states. So a busy week. I think the week before was even busier, but it was still a pretty busy week, and we saw the action shift into the northern part of the Mid-Atlantic states for those 3 days this week: Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. All right, Friday night, which means that you have Friday night things to do, and that means especially if the weather is good, go out and take advantage. Okay. And enjoy. David Schwartz, 30 tornadoes in the last 48 hours, as per tornadopaths.org. That's another good stat site to use. Thanks for that, David. So anyway, nice weather. If you've got it, take advantage of it, and head out there and have a good time tonight and enjoy your weekend, especially if it happens to be nice most of the time. All right, in case you joined late, again, I'll just say what I said at the top. We started doing this in the morning. I'll be putting up a weather in 5 minutes in 5 days. It's a very short 5-minute video, just basically highlighting what may have gone on the overnight and what to expect in the short range. And I'll be doing that every day in the morning, probably sometime around 9 o'clock or 9:30. I won't be doing it live. I'll be pre-taping it and then uploading it to YouTube and also uploading it to Facebook. So look for that. And then it will be followed by the regular live stream in the evening. But it's a weekend, so I don't know what my schedule is going to be. I do know for tomorrow I won't be doing an evening live stream because I will be working at WPIX TV tomorrow night in New York City. So you can watch me there, and if you not in the New York area, New York, New Jersey area, you can watch it online. And Sunday, I'll have to see because I do need one day to kind of recharge my batteries. All right, folks, have a great night and enjoy your weekend. We will either we'll see you tomorrow morning on the Weather in 5, or if I do a live stream, I guess the next chance for that will be sometime on Sunday. Good night, everybody.